Every house has its motto. The Lannisters have too. The official "Hear Me Roar" and the unofficial but more famous, "A Lannister always pays his debts."
This is fitting. The Lannisters are famed for their gold and their deviousness. Having two sayings, then, reflects their wealth and moral flexibility. Over the course of our story, Tywin Lannister and his children, Cersei, Jaime, and Tyrion, have used the family's gold and political connections to very different ends. This is the path to the throne, the Lannisters.
The story of House Lannister begins with Lann the Clever, the legendary trickster who duped the Casterly family out of their ancestral seat, Casterly Rock, gaining Westeros' strongest castle and the vast unmined gold that would fuel House Lannister's legendary wealth. The Casterlys disappeared, while the Lannisters grew into a great house. In time, Tywin Lannister emerged as the greatest Lannister of all.
As King's Hand, Tywin displayed a brilliance for administration as Aerys slipped further into madness. Many whispered that Tywin truly governed Westeros, and this gossip enraged the king, who inflicted taunts and humiliations upon his hand. Finally, Tywin resigned and returned to the safety of Casterly Rock, where he sat out Robert's rebellion until Robert slew Prince Rhaegar. Then, Tywin marched his army to King's Landing and, stunning the Mad King, sacked the city.
When the Mad King ordered the city destroyed by wildfire, Jaime Lannister, the youngest member of the King's Guard, slew him, saving thousands of lives but earning the moniker the Kingslayer and the realm's eternal disdain. To prove his loyalty to Robert, Tywin ordered the Mountain to murder Rhaegar's wife and their 2 children. The move was pure Tywin, ruthless and totally deniable in putting Robert into his debt. To further seal the alliance, Robert took Cersei as his queen. She bore 3 children, Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen. The realm found peace.
But beneath the surface, war stirred. For the children Cersei bore were not Baratheons. Twins Cersei and Jaime had, for all their lives, been secret lovers. And in their youth, Cersei engineered Jaime's acceptance to the King's Guard so that they could remain close, and in so doing, cost Tywin his heir. When Robert ascended, he allowed Jaime to remain in the Order, and thus unknowingly kept the lovers by each other's side, absent suspicion.
If Cersei and Jaime were found, it would mean death, plus the end of Cersei's son's claims. And eventually, Jon Arryn, Hand of the King, noticed the royal children looked like Lannisters, not Baratheons. But then Lord Arryn died. His wife Lysa, Cat's sister and the actual killer, wrote to Cat blaming the Lannisters, sowing discord between the houses.
Cersei, Jaime, and Tyrion followed Robert to Winterfell, where the king intended to name Ned Hand. Meanwhile, Cersei and Jaime took advantage of Robert's distraction and of an abandoned tower to make love. There they were seen by Bran Stark, who Jaime threw from a window to silence him, paralyzing him in the process and drawing first blood between the Lannisters and Starks.
The conflict widened to the War of the Five Kings, reshaping the realm. After Robert's death, Joffrey was king, Cersei queen regent, Tyrion Hand, and Jaime, after losing to Robb Stark in battle, a prisoner. Tyrion's term as Hand was a triumph. He rid the Red Keep of Cersei's spies, outmaneuvered Littlefinger, and took control of the City Watch, planning the defense of King's Landing as Stannis attacked. And when the defenders faltered, Tyrion joined the fight, holding off the foe.
Jaime, meanwhile, gained his freedom by promising Cat that he would return Sansa and Arya home. He gained understanding from his companion Brienne, but lost his sword hand on the road, and when he finally reached King's Landing, he was nearly unrecognizable.
Tywin, meanwhile, made his grand move, using Roose Bolton and Walder Frey to lure the Starks to a wedding at the Twins, where they were butchered. Tywin had again instigated a repellent act that benefited the Lannisters without bloodying his hands. With the war as good as over, Tywin turned his attention fully to his legacy. To bind Westeros' wounds, he arranged for Joffrey and Cersei to wed Margaery and Loras Tyrell, respectively. Tyrion would wed Sansa Stark.
But Joffrey and Margaery's wedding was marred by the king's horrific, gurgling death. Cersei blamed Tyrion and put him in chains. Tommen became king. Tyrion's trial was a mere formality, and as the farce played out, he requested trial by combat, as he had at the Eyrie. The contest was close, but Cersei's champion, the Mountain, defeated Tyrion's champion, Prince Oberyn. But before the execution that Tywin sanctioned, Jaime freed his brother. And Tyrion took the opportunity to settle affairs with his father, finding Tywin on the shitter and killing him.
With Myrcella and Dorne and King Tommen falling under his new wife, Margaery's spell, Cersei sought to regain control, but her play backfired as the High Sparrow she aligned with arrested her for fornication, treason, incest, and the murder of King Robert. Imprisoned, she confessed to adultery and made the infamous Walk of Atonement, naked and mocked. She suffered through that all without Jaime, whom she dispensed to Dorne to retrieve Myrcella.
But moments after Myrcella told Jaime she knew he was her father, she died in his arms, poisoned by Ellaria Sand. Tyrion, whom Ellaria's lover had died for, found himself across the Narrow Sea. Surviving Jorah and then the slavers, he ultimately made his way to the pyramids of Meereen, and the ruler who restored his faith in humanity. That faith was tested when a Harpy attack caused Dany to flee. But with Meereen crumbling in her absence, Tyrion tried his hand at ruling. His attempts at negotiating with the Masters failed to prevent the slavers from mounting an attack that only Dany's timely return thwarted.
Yet Tyrion's admiration for Dany and willingness to bless her alliances with those who many would deem threats earned him favor. Lannister. And as he set sail for Westeros, he did so with the hand of the queen pin on his chest. When Jaime sailed home, it was with Myrcella's corpse. As the High Sparrow took over King's Landing, Cersei also lost Tommen to his pull. The boy removed Jaime from the King's Guard while abolishing trial by combat, which Cersei intended to use.
She used something else instead, the Mad King's old wildfire, with which she blew up the Sept, killing Margaery and Loras, the High Sparrow and Lancel, and more. The atrocity led Tommen to kill himself, and Cersei to crown herself queen, with Jaime arriving back just in time to see her coronated, but also to see her emerge as a mirror image of the Mad King.
While Cersei responded to Tommen's suicide by falling more fully than ever into an us versus the world mindset, Jaime further displayed his growth by urging alliances. Cersei's decision to heed that in the form of a marriage arrangement with Euron Greyjoy drove a further wedge between the twins.
As the Euron alliance brought Cersei vengeance in the form of Ellaria and victories over Dany's Greyjoys on the open sea, Cersei worked to maintain her father's long-standing arrangement with the Iron Bank. But in other key ways, she distanced herself from Tywin's legacy, sacrificing Casterly Rock as a now worthless pawn in the game against Dany and Tyrion, who mounted a misguided attack on the Lannister home while Jaime conquered Highgarden.
As losses mounted and Dany lost faith in her hand, she decimated Jaime's troops. His report to Cersei included not only a hopeless assessment of beating Dany's dragons in Dothraki, but the reveal that Olenna had assassinated Joffrey. That did nothing to abate Cersei's lifelong disdain of Tyrion, who, after convincing Dany to work with Jon and convincing Jon and company to fetch a white for show and tell in the capital, next set out to convince Cersei, through Jaime, to meet with Westeros' other powers. Cersei, claiming to carry Jaime's child, viewed his meeting with Tyrion as a betrayal, but one she seemed to move beyond after a vintage Tyrion sales pitch.
But Cersei's public pledge of troops and unity against the Night King quickly proved a lie, as she'd actually dispensed Euron to Essos to hire the famed Golden Company. Horrified, Jaime showed that despite a union with Cersei that began in the womb, he could neither forgive this deception nor her myopic mania.
The Mountain pulled his sword, but Jaime knew the time had come at last to leave the woman he'd sacrificed so much to love and serve. And so despite Cersei's declaration that, quote, "No one walks away from me," Jaime did, shedding his Lannister armor and heading north as the snow began to fall on King's Landing.
The Starks say that the pack survives. The Targaryens speak of the dragon having 3 heads. But entering season 8, the Lannister pride has dissolved, its lions roaming alone across the land. Jaime is riding toward Winterfell, and the only person who's ever seen him clearly, Brienne. But he's also riding toward an inevitable clash with his own shameful history. Will he be able to ingratiate himself with Bran, whom he pushed out of a window? The rest of the Starks, given his role in the capture that presaged Ned's death? Dany, given that he killed her father?
Even when Jaime has sinned hideously, he's done so to protect something that he loves. As he once said to Cat, "No matter what you do, you're forsaking one vow or another." He doesn't want the throne for himself, he wants to protect the living. He just needs to convince those he's wronged to trust him.
Brienne will surely vouch for him, as will Tyrion, who after a lifetime as an outcast is now surrounded by those who seek his counsel, uniquely positioned to appeal to all parties and act as peacemaker for the brother who always loved him best. Though the brain behind Blackwater has racked up his share of L's in recent seasons, in many ways, the child that Tywin never accepted has proved most like him, preternaturally adept at ruling from the shadows.
It's possible that his true identity has long been cast in shadow too. Could the boy who so longed for a dragon and the man who bonded with Dany's actually be a Targaryen, the fruit of the Mad King's lust for Tywin's wife Joanna? Ultimately, the most powerful lesson is not for Tyrion, like Jon, to emerge as a secret dragon. It's for him to overcome Tywin's neglect to stand proud. Never forget what you are, Tyrion once told Jon. The rest of the world will not. Wear it like armor and it can never be used to hurt you.
That lesson, in many ways, is this story's real Iron Throne. And for Tyrion, true victory is continuing to honor those words. Tyrion knows that while he can never wear the crown, he's one of the few capable of not only saving Westeros, but sustaining it, remaining elemental both in the wars to come and whatever world the victors build after, holding Dany accountable for her promises, including breaking the wheel.
Doing so will mean breaking Cersei, who has achieved her dearest ambitions, but in the process lost all that she holds dear. She wears the golden crown that Maggie the Frog told Cersei all of her children would gain. Will she also earn their golden shrouds and meet Maggie's Valonqar? Cersei has lost her children, father, and brother lover. She's lost the chance to assume a temporary peace, all in some way because of decisions she made. She has the Franken Mountain, and Qyburn, and his big crossbow, and Euron, and her sellswords, but they're shields, not family. Even her unborn baby appears to be a tool to her.
Varys once said of Littlefinger, he would see this country burn if he could be king of the ashes. But as the end nears, those words seem to apply to Cersei most. We've long seen visions of the throne room in ruins. That's Cersei's future, and one that Maggie's words indicate Dany, not Marjorie as Cersei long imagined, could bring.
"Oh yes, he'll be queen," Maggie told her, "for a time. Then comes another, younger, more beautiful, to cast cast you down and take all you hold dear. But what does Cersei hold dear anymore, other than power?
When you play the Game of Thrones, Cersei once told Ned, you win or you die. There is no middle ground. Thanks to her own greed, Cersei and House Lannister might soon learn the truth of those words.